Hello, and welcome to 5 Minute Math. Today we are looking at the sixth grade concept of fractions, decimals, and percents. This is 6.4G Readiness Practice, the advanced version. If you are interested in exploring the 6.4G Readiness Practice for the intermediate or proficient versions, or the Readiness Practice aligned with any other standard, you can find those by using the link in the video description. So we have a store having a sale, 30% off. So we're looking at jeans that originally cost 80 bucks. And there's some sales tax we're going to have to calculate, but first, let's figure out what is the discounted price of the jeans. All right, so 30% of $80. So what we could do is we can either do it two ways. So 30%, right, is the same as 30 over 100, because percent means per 100, which is the same as 0.3. Right? You could have done that by the fraction, or you could have just moved the decimal over twice. Now, that's if I multiply that by that 80, that's going to give me the percent that's the discount. But we don't actually need the percent discount. I want to know what the new price is going to be. So really, if it's 30% off, I'm paying 70%. So this is the discount. So that means the 70%, or 0.7, is the actual new price. So the 30% off just tells you how much you need to take away from the original, but then you still have to subtract that from the original price. A shortcut is to just multiply that by 0.7 because that's the new price. So let's do that. Let's take our 80, we're going to multiply it by 0.7, and that's going to be $56. Now, if you did it the other way, then you would have gotten like this. You would have multiplied by 0.3, and you would have been like this. You would have gotten that $24, but that's not the discount and discounted price. That's the discount. And then you need to subtract that 24 from your 80, and you would get your 56. So it's just one step less. So what is the discounted price? $56. Now, what is the sales tax? Well, there's an 8% sales tax. So they're only going to charge me sales tax on the new price, which is $56. So let's do 56 times, now it's 8%. So when we think about it, it's 0.08, because what I did is took my 8, and that's 8% or per 100, or I could have just taken this and moved the decimal over twice. So I have that extra 0 there. I'm going to have to keep up with that. 0.08, so that's going to be a 48, 40, 44. That is just a whole bunch of zeros on that next row, so I can just kind of avoid that. I just need 2 digits behind the decimal in my uh, product there. So what is the sales tax? So that's going to be $4.48. And then the final sales price. Well, let's take my $4.48. We're going to add that to $56. And we are going to get $60.48. And then what is the fraction of the original price? What fraction of the original price does John save? We're just needing to look at that 30% as a fraction. So that 30% is 31/100ths, which really we should simplify down to 3/10ths. All right, so that's it for number 1. For number 2, we've got a backpack that is marked as 6/10ths of the original price. So what fraction and percent are equivalent to the discount? So this is a little bit backwards from the other one. Okay, so if this is 6/10ths, so new price is 6/10ths, then we're looking for the discount. The discount is going to be the other portion of that that adds up to 100, so that's 0.4. So if I have a new price of 6/10ths, that means 4/10ths is my discount. And so what fraction and percent? So well, let's turn this into a fraction, 4/10ths, which we can simplify down to 2/5ths. So 2/5ths discount And how do I turn that into a percent? Well, I want to turn this into per 100. So I'm going to rewrite this as 0.40. I'm going to add that 0, and that's 40% because that's 40 over 100. So 40% off. 2/5 off gets you that 0.6. That's the new price. What is the sale price? Well, let's take that 6/10. We're going to multiply that by 48, and that's going to be 48, 24, 28. All right, so that's going to be $28.80. And then we have a sales tax of 8.25. All right, so we need to multiply 28.8 times 8.25. Now, what ends up happening is I move the decimal over once, move the decimal over twice. There's actually an extra 0 over here. So I'm just going to multiply like this, and I'm going to realize I need 4 digits behind the decimal in the product because of that bottom factor. But look, I've got a top factor up there. So I'm going to need 5 digits behind the decimal. So it's going to go beyond the hundreds place. We will have to round. That's 40. That's 40, 44. And that's 10. That's 14. Next row, 16. And another 16. And that's 17. And then that's 2, 4, 5. All right. And then 2 zeros in the third row. 8 times 8 is 64. Another 64, 70. And then I've got 16 and 23. So let's add all this up. That's 10, that's 8, 9, 16, 7, 23. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 digits behind the decimal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 digits behind the decimal. All right, so 2.376, we can drop these zeros. This 6 is actually going to round that 7 up, so it's going to be $2.38 for tax. And my new price is $28.80. So let's add the $28.80. And this is my discounted price. And so we'll add this up, and we're going to get 8, 11, another 11. There we go, $31.18 is my new price, including tax. All right, we have a store that having a sale on shoes. So pair A, and I've got a pair B, so we're going to have to kind of do a little bit of comparison here. Original price was 80, but discounted by 3/10. Okay, so I'll say original is $80, and then discounted by 3/10. 3/10. Let's go ahead and change this to a percent. So that's going to be 30 over 100. If I multiply both by 10, which is going to equal 30% off. It's not bad. Pair B, we've got an original of $90, and then marked down to $54. Okay, so new price, $54. Okay, which pair has a better discount? Well, let's calculate. We got a 30% discount on the original. We can use that to calculate how much uh, percent off, or we have the percent off, but we need to know how much discounted price is. Okay, so discounted price, let's take my, kind of separate this here. Let's take my 0.3. That's the 30% off. Multiply that by 80. Right, that's going to get me 24. Okay, so saved. I'm going to kind of separate it like this. All right, so I saved 24 bucks. So my discounted price is going to be that 80 minus 24, and that's going to be 56. All right, so it was $80. I saved 24. Now I've got $56 pair of shoes because I had a 30% discount. Now let's do this over here. And you know what? Let's go ahead and set up our second row, just kind of like we did our first row. So it's 54. So I'm going to do pair B. I'm going to say discounted price. And that's going to be that $54. All right, $54. And I'm also going to look for the discount and how much I saved. Well, I can figure out how much I saved, right? It was $90 minus 54, and that's going to be 36. So I ended up saving more, but it did originally cost more. So I want to see if it's got a bigger discount. Just because you save more doesn't necessarily help you, even though the discounted price actually is a little bit less. Look at the discounted price is $54. The discounted price on pair of jeans for A or shoes for A is $56. So it started out $10 cheaper, $10 more expensive, but ended up being $2 cheaper. How do we figure out the discount? Well, what we could do is we can view it as a percentage. We can say the new price divided by my original price. And let's see, what happens if we simplify this? I could divide by nines, and that's going to give me 10 6/10. Okay, so what that means is my discounted price is 6/10 of the original price, so the discount is going to be that other portion, 4/10. So it's a 40% off, because that's 40 over 100, or 40%. So which pair has a better discount? Well, 40% off, and I save 36 bucks. Definitely, I'm going to say pair B. And then let's show all calculations and express 3/10 and everything as fraction, decimal, and percent. Okay. So let's show my discount here. I'm going to do that down here. So 3/10, because I need to show it as a fraction, as a decimal, as a percent. We'll do this just so it's kind of clear. And then let's do the same thing over here. It was 40%, so 4/10 equals 0.4 equals 40%. All right, if you are interested in exploring the 6.4G readiness practice for the intermediate or proficient versions, or the readiness practice resource along with any other standard, you can find those by using the link in the video description.